Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as promised, I'm going to be putting out videos every Sunday, and so we can look at this as our little Sunday talk or Sunday flex or Sunday reason. And trust me, one of the things that I do best is talking. So today what I wanted to talk to you guys about is 10 things that I learned in the first 3 months of moving out. So I have moved out of my parents' home since June. So yeah, June, July, August, 3 months. And there have been a couple lessons that I've learned. I don't know if any of these will really jump out at you, but I figured that it would be helpful to kind of just share these things, find out if others have similar experience. So if you have any of these experiences or you have any other ideas or lessons that you learned along the way, like, trust me, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. All right, so I have my little paper here because I didn't want to stray too much. So if you see me looking down, that's what's up. Okay, so lesson number 1 that I learned, learn to be alone. Like, when I was living with my parents, I'm my mom's only child, so it's not like I'm accustomed to having a house full of people, but it would be, you know, the 3 of us. And even though we had busy schedules and we'd be, you know, in different directions a lot of times, I knew that there wasn't going to be a whole day where, you know, there's no interaction or no talking with anybody. However, when I came here to be on my own, you know, at first it was just very shocking. The silence, you know, the silence in the house would be kind of deafening. Like, I'd step through the door, and after I close that door behind me, if I didn't generate noise, there was none. There was nothing or no one to hear or interact with. And this for me was new because I was coming from a house where my parents are like always talking to each other. When it's not that, there's a radio playing over there. I have my 4 little pet birds. I'm still gonna be bringing them at some point. But when it wasn't, you know, my parents, it was my birds just always screaming or being on top of their lungs. Or I'd have my neighbors playing music or vibing, but my home environment was very noisy. So when I came here and it was so quiet, I think it really solidified, you know, aloneness or solitude. And that's something that, you know, it took some adjusting to. So it's not like it was sad or anything, but definitely an eye-opener. So that's number 1, learn to be alone. Number 2, get to know at least one neighbor. So lucky for me, my neighbor to my, well, let me not give the direction, but one of my neighbors, she happened to be a friend of one of my family members. And we actually met up at a baby shower, but didn't know that we would be living in such close proximity just a couple months down the line. So when I found out that this already semi-familiar face was going to be my neighbor, that was really nice. And trust me, it has come in quite helpful at times. So I would say get to know at least one neighbor. I had an occasion where before I had separated my keys, I was going to be leaving my house, but somebody was going to be coming to do something, and they needed a key to access my place. So I was able to just, you know, run over, leave the key with the neighbor for however long until the person came and picked it up from them. And, you know, there have been other little times where it was just nice to be able to call on someone for help. Like one time this is probably going to shadow on one of my other numbers on the list. But one time I locked myself out by mistake. So my key was inside. I locked the door when I was exiting the house, and then locked the door behind me. And for some reason, like, I normally lock up everywhere when I'm leaving my house, but that day I just felt like leaving one little window open. And I've never done that before, but one man just said, hey, just leave the window, you're just going down the road for 5 minutes and come back, it's not that serious. And I was able to call my neighbor, and they assisted me to get through that one little window and access my keys. So it's nice to have at least one person that you can call upon. I'm not saying you should use people, right? Because I think I'm a friendly person, but I don't have an open door policy. I don't want people at my house like just pulling up on short notice, being there all the time, you know, overstaying their welcome. I am not about that life, okay? I didn't grow up in a house with an open door policy, and I'm kind of used to that. So I'm not saying you should like be all up in people's Kool-Aid, but get to know somebody. All right. So number 3, learn to cook or always have instant food. So if you're like me, chances are moving out, you might not be close to a place where you can just readily get food within walking distance. Like where I live, I don't even have a shop. So if you don't have groceries in your house or quick food, you're just gonna be hungry. Like you just not gonna have any escape if you do get hungry. And sometimes you're busy, you don't necessarily want to go on the road, or it gets late and you cannot get something to eat that's nearby. So I would say, even if you can't cook, always keep some cereal in hand, always keep some fruits. Like, it's very helpful. I know that's something that people might take for granted, but trust me, it has saved my life a couple of times. And one other bonus thing with cooking, sometimes, bear in mind, I have a love-hate relationship with cooking. I love food, I love great food, I love home-cooked meals, but I don't like to cook, right? Like, I cook out of necessity. So don't feel as though I'm preaching to you if you're like me who you don't like to cook. I'm just keeping it real. So yeah, sometimes there's an additional benefit of cooking from home, because what you'd probably pay for a meal on the road, if you were supposed to go to the supermarket and buy those raw ingredients, you could cook the same meal and more than likely get several servings out of it. And so your money will go a little bit further to do other stuff. And trust me, when you are, I guess this could be a point in and of itself, but when you have moved out, there can never be too much money or enough money. Like, there's just always going to be new costs and something else that you're going to want. So if you can cook, save yourself a little money, also eat healthily, and just have something to grab quickly if you ever get that hungry, it's a plus. So number 4 on my list, learn to conserve. Like, my parents, so I don't know how many of you outside of Jamaica will be seeing this video right now, but light bill rough. Like JPS rough, bad. Them ramp very rough. And for you, those of you who don't necessarily understand what I just said, electricity bills out here can be pretty high if you don't know what you're doing. So learn to conserve. Like, my parents' home had solar power, so I could use air conditioning, fans, the microwave, whatever I wanted. Honestly, I could just use and use and use and use, and I never had to think about it until I came to live here. And at first, my bills were like nice and low and everything. They're still manageable, but I realized, yeah, 1 and 2 months of just being a little bit free or carefree with my utilities, you have to pay for everything because there's nobody helping you when you go on your own. So learn to conserve if you want to retain money and not necessarily fatten the pockets of the energy companies. Okay, so number 5 on my list, it's a whole lot of work to host guests. So for me, because like I had previously said, I'm not from a home with an open door policy, it was brand new to me to have guests over by my house, and guests who were my guests, and I was entirely responsible for hosting them. Normally, if somebody did visit me in the past, like at my parents' home, yes, I would help to keep their company and stuff, but I didn't really have to care about food prep or their comfort, making sure that there were clean sheets, all of that. Like, my mom just took care of that, and I took it for granted. So hosting people, it's a bit of work. Like, it doesn't matter how friendly you are, you all of a sudden you have to take into account that, oh my gosh, what if my place isn't up to standard? So I might need to do some cleaning. Are my sheets fresh? Like, are they going to be comfortable? Is the temperature going to be right? Do they have a special diet and they need to eat specific food? So I need to go to the supermarket and buy them. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that comes into hosting that, to me, it's a bit of work. And I didn't have that experience before. So if you do have guests, oh yeah, and buy spare toothbrushes, buy spare bath rags, even buy spare underwear. Like, ensure that you have toiletries in abundance, and even like sleepwear, like an oversized t-shirt or two that you don't necessarily use, because yeah, you don't really want your guests to come and there's just no accommodation for them, or the place is just a mess, you know? So, and it's also very rewarding to have guests. Like, I felt very grown up and adult having people on over on my account for the first time. And it was just a lot of fun, but work does go into it. So, number 6, from what I learned, leave a spare key with someone nearby. So, at the moment, nobody has my spare key as yet. But I don't know if I had mentioned earlier that, there was that time when I was going to be leaving and somebody would be coming to the house. And I was able to just drop off my keys at my neighbor and the person could pick it up from them. Also, I got locked out of my house. So it helps to be friendly with a neighbor and be able to leave a spare key with somebody that you can trust. Even if it's not your neighbor, like, you need at least one person that has access to your home that's not far away. Because trust me, there's going to be some situation or the other. Like, that's just the way how life works. So number 7, prioritize household needs and have a budget to acquire stuff. So when I was moving out, I had this grand idea, like, oh my gosh, my Pinterest boards were full, still are, with, how I was going to decorate my space, and I was going to get this color and this type of couch and these type of lights, and I still can. But then I realized that, okay, moving out and not having had anything to come with, I had to prioritize. So I was like, okay, where are you gonna sleep? You need a bed. Like, I had a bed, but I didn't have like a bed base or mattress base. So where are you gonna sleep? If you have other people over, where are they gonna sleep? You're gonna need food at some point. So do you have a kitchen? What type of refrigerator are you gonna get? What type of stove do you need? Stuff like this. I had to prioritize because I unfortunately do not have fairy godparents who would just grant my every wish. I got a lot of help, so shout out to the folks who did help me. But I'm just saying, you are not necessarily gonna get your place looking like how you want it to look overnight, but you can, budget and have a list of stuff that is really needed, and just take your time and check off that list. I'm actually planning to buy a whiteboard so that I can have a physical reminder just there on the wall, like, hey, you did say you were gonna get this in this time. Go after it, So 3 left on my list. Number 8, gardening and yard work is a must. So unless you're living in an apartment complex, if you're living anywhere that you have a yard, even if you are a tenant, you can't just ignore the outside of your yard, the outside of your house, because your house might be, spick and span and it's looking good, but if your yard is like the most, you have the most overgrown weeds, there's like garbage that probably blew from other places and into your yard, or you have like stray cats and dogs that might have left some litter or some, unwelcome presents, you are not gonna be viewed too favorably in the eyes of your neighbors. So it doesn't matter how simple it looks, like, just, be vigilant, because it's kind of easy for these things to pile up over time, and then next thing you know, you have the worst looking yard on the block and you get a lot of side glances or judgments. So this kind of ties in with my previous point, number 9. Homes take maintenance. Like, if you have lived with your parents or, roommates or whatever before, there is someone to share the load, and there's probably somebody in the background doing a lot more than you give them credit for. So me, for example, when I lived with my folks, there was a lot of stuff that my dad did, like, he ensured that the burglar bars were always clean and well painted. He watered the plants. He ensured that the grass outside was cut. And, if we had like trees that were overgrown, he'd prune them. Those are things that I just never thought about. Like I didn't do it. It was his thing. I didn't even give him much credit for what he did until I got my own place. And because I wasn't so used to the aloneness that I spoke about, I would leave it up for long periods of time. So like I remember one time I didn't come home for like almost 2 weeks. You know, the place was just locked up. And when I came back, the weeds were, I kid you not, like they grow extra fast when you're not here or something. The weeds were window height. I was afraid to walk through my yard because when I thought about, sorry, a call was coming in. I was afraid to walk through my yard because I didn't want to get stung by maybe insects or critters that were going to be hiding in the tall bushes. And not only that, there were like spiders everywhere. I'm not afraid of spiders, but it's kind of crazy how overwhelming these things can get if you just neglect to maintain the place. So for that reason, it was like a big motivator to actually move in, take advantage of the space, and keep on top of the maintenance. Because trust me, if you just leave it up like, or you're a sloppy or a lazy person, it's gonna get out of hand very quickly. Unless you have a lot of money to like pay cleaners and landscapers and everybody that needs to come and get things done, anybody but you. But you gotta pay. Like most people won't do that for free. If they do it for free once, there probably won't be a second, third, or fourth time that's gonna be free or without complaints. So number 10 and final. So there's a special or distinct pride from being on your own. And this sounds pretty obvious, but guys, it's a great feeling. I mean, it's hella expensive, and I had to learn the hard way to just lay low for that initial period. It's like, I guess that's how people feel when you adjust to a new vehicle, or maybe you have a new kid. You know, it's a new financial undertaking and it can be pretty strenuous. But guess what? Learning to do things for yourself, learning to just be self-sufficient, I think it's an essential step in adulting, and I'd encourage anybody to, you know, try it. If it's even for like a temporary situation, there's a great sense of pride in learning to help yourself. And this is one bonus thing that I wanted to say. YouTube, it's great for DIYs, and there are going to be a lot of firsts. So for example, something as simple as putting up a picture frame on the wall, example A. Well, I didn't do this one, my dad did, but there are going to be a lot of firsts, and there might be stuff that you just never had to do before, and you didn't know how to do it. So use YouTube. Like if you don't know how to use, or if you try YouTube but it's still not practical, call a friend who knows about what you need help with and get some assistance. But you're gonna have to do stuff on your own sometimes, because like I said, every time you're gonna call somebody, it's gonna cost you. And you don't necessarily want to call or pay somebody to come put up a picture frame or to come put up a light, or you know. So DIY, learn to do stuff on your own, learn to help yourself. All right, so guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video with my 10 eye-openers, or 10 things I learned in the first 3 months of moving out. If you like this video, please give it a like. I'm hoping that you will share, so tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and just stay tuned for more content. All right, and remember, leave down in the comments below, like, is there anything on this list that you learned when you moved out of your folks' home and you think that I left that out? So yeah, share your eye openers and just let me know. So I'll see you around. Bye bye.